Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is actually like my third time recording this video just because the lighting in my house is not working for me, but I'm actually feeling this little place. I'm on the floor in my basement, so if there is an echo, please do forgive me. Yeah, I'm coming to you guys with my April wrap-up like the description says, and I'm also going to get into my May TBR-ish. I've been kind of a moody reader lately, so I'm not really going to set like a definite TBR, but I just want to give you guys a gist of what I may or may not be reading. But enough chit chat, let's go ahead and jump into this wrap-up. The first thing that I finished within the month of April was Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I have a full review on this book and I will link that video down below in the description box, but basically I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it, and I feel like if you're someone who is interested in reading a true account or narrative from an immigrant's perspective, I feel like this is the way to go. Chimamanda is really good at storytelling and setting up the scene and really getting into the inner dialogue within a character, which I think was very refreshing. This will actually be the only book that I'm giving a numerical rating to for this month. I haven't decided if I'm going to continue with this or not. Yeah, I feel like my reviews are more true to how I'm feeling if I just verbalize my reactions to a book or my thoughts rather than trying to confine it to a numerical scale, which can vary from person to person, and I feel like I don't want to deter anyone from picking up a book based upon my rating. From here on out, at least for right now, this will be the only numerical scale rating for a book just because I've already given it a rating. But yeah, like I said, really enjoyed it. Check it out, check out the review because it's fabulous, if I do say so myself. Alright, the next thing that I read for the month of April, I actually no longer have the physical copy because it was a library book, but it was Upstream by Mary Oliver. This was a collection of essays written by her. This was actually my first Mary Oliver works. I hadn't read anything else by her, but basically I felt that it was okay. I guess I went into it expecting a little bit more than what I actually got from the book. It really just dealt with the concept of nature, not just trees and animals and things like that, but it also dealt with like the nature of things in itself. Like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be animal? You know, the nature of a writer, of a creative. And there was a portion of the book that spoke about power and time of a creative and sort of getting into your craft that I really enjoyed, but everything else was sort of so-so with me. I enjoyed the writing and I enjoyed the storytelling, and her description of things was very acute, and it almost set me in the scene. So her language and her writing style I very much enjoyed, but the overall concept of the book, it sort of came and it went. Like, after I put the book down, I really didn't give it too much of an afterthought. This isn't deterring me for the rest of her works. I think maybe I should try something else out to see maybe if there was something else that she's written that I might connect with more. Okay, so the next book that I finished for the month of April was The Sellout by Paul Beatty. This is a satire and it follows our main character of Me, that is his last name, and Me is sort of reflecting upon his life after his father's death. That is not a spoiler, it says it in the synopsis. His father was a very strong community figure in that he was very in tune with trying to promote Black wellness, redefine Black identity, and sort of get into the Black person's state of mental being within this country. And he was a psychologist, he was all into social reconstruction, and he did a lot of this through the means of trying to perform experiments and theoretical, you know, happenings on his son, who is Me. Me is sort of put in this position to where he sort of is thrust into taking up his father's works of, you know, uplifting the Black community, but the way that he tries to do this is by reinstating slavery and segregation, not slavery, but reinstating segregation and racism within his community. And oddly enough, it starts to work. It's this real crazy extreme way of viewing social reconstruction and how, you know, the slave mentality is, you know, continued and continued within our own society. I don't know if you guys can see this little character right here is a character within the book. His name is Hominy, and he's actually one of the original Little Rascals. And I'm not talking about Little Rascals from the 90s, but I'm talking black and white, you know, little ragamuffins run around, you know, the cities and stuff. So I've actually grew up watching those black and white films, and so when they used a lot of the examples in the book to show the cooning, to show the social mindset of a black individual of that time, and how these people who grew up in segregation, who grew up in, you know, racism, hardcore racism, how their mindsets are so different from like our mindsets growing up now in this generation. And it gave a true narrative to how it could be conflicting with the betterment and the regression of a society and of a people. Really enjoyed this book. Definitely feel like it should be recommended reading. It's definitely a conversation starter because it definitely had me thinking, I wonder if something like this would work, or I wonder if this is why this happens, or it just brought up so many questions to be answered. And so I really enjoyed the book. The last two things that I read in April, like you guys saw in my 2 book hauls, I'm really into poetry. That is like my bread and butter. So I picked up 2 collections of poetry, and both of them I loved. The first one is Preparing My Daughter for Rain. This is by Kibala. I believe this is a self-published work, and as you can see from the tabs, I thoroughly enjoyed this collection of poetry. I actually had to be more conservative with myself because I probably would have tabbed every single page, poem, and footnote in this thing. This collection of poetry are sort of like letters to her daughter, things that she would want her daughter to learn from her, things that she would want her daughter to know. And it sort of speaks to that self-empowerment, that self-love, and that encouragement that we would want to give all of our daughters. It's broken down into 4 parts, I believe: the body, the heart, the soul, and the land. And basically it just goes into a whole bunch of different topics. Like, it talks about rape culture, it talks about religion, it talks about being from a biracial family, which she is, and sort of learning to love yourself in regardless of all the scars and experiences, and to also learn to forgive, whether it's forgive others or forgive yourself, and know that that strength and power that all women should be imbued with is already within her, and that through her ancestors, through her mother, her grandmother, her aunties, that she receives that power and that energy to be everything she wants to be. You know, it's not heavily flowery, it's not, you know, a whole bunch of rhyming, but it really gets straight to the point. And I think that if you're looking for a piece of poetry to really jumpstart you into reading more poetry, I think this would be a perfect word. Like, it's not that long, and also because it just really deals with a lot of things that are impertinent to today's day and age, in dealing with feminism and what it means to be a woman and what it means to grow into yourself. Honestly, this will be something that I could see having for a really long time, and sitting down with my daughter or nieces or whomever I might come into contact with. So highly recommended. I think pick it up y'all. Next book that I'm going to share with you guys is Asper's Artistry by Kondwani Fidel. I mentioned Kondwani in my last book haul video. He is a spoken word poet and writer from Baltimore, Maryland. I had the pleasure of meeting him in my Cuba trip, and so I went out and got his book. Like I said, I tabbed this one as well. I really enjoyed this. Now, I will say that this isn't the most polished work. This is his first piece of work, I believe, and it's not something that, you know, you should go into expecting, you know, to be blown away by the iambic pentameter or the rhyme and things like that in the prose. But it's definitely a piece of work that I would say is very raw. It's very true to who he is, and it's almost read like biographically, as it spoke of his experiences growing up in inner city Baltimore, his experiences with, you know, having parents who were hooked on drugs, his experiences with being the only one of the few people in his family going to college, and what that experience was like, and being a growing artist in his craft, where in a certain environment that's not exactly, you know, conducive to someone like him. I really enjoy just his art of storytelling. Like, you can definitely read some of the poems and tell that it was no fabrication. These are all true events, and he just pretty much laid his heart bare in this book. Say that a lot of the poetry I could definitely see was more so of a spoken word, whereas the rhyme was a little, you know, forced in sometimes, or it didn't come off as, you know, easy to understand. But in, you know, having heard him do his spoken word or watched his videos, I can definitely hear the tone and the rhythm that comes behind his writing, and I really enjoyed the sections where he sort of gave his own thoughts and opinions about the topics that he was going to address in his poetry. So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to pick up his next book, which I believe is already out. It's called Raw Wounds. So if you guys want to check him out, I will link links to where you can get his books from, and I will also leave a link down below to his YouTube channel so you guys can check out some of his videos. Very good, and I really enjoyed this. Lastly, for the month of April, which I am still currently reading, which will be a perfect segue into talking about what I will be reading for the month of May, is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I'm a little over halfway through the book, so I will continue to read this through the month of May, and I will let you guys know more about this in my wrap-up. But like I said, I hopped on the bandwagon. I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, so let us go. All right, and so segueing into my May TBR, I sort of, like I said, I'm in a mood right now to where I just don't know what I want to pick up. I don't know if you guys are aware, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I definitely wanted to pick up works dealing in and around that subject as well. And of course, I think I want to make it a thing to where I also pick up at least one work of poetry every month, just because I feel like that gives me the most like breather and bridge between, you know, novels. And I've also been on a non-fictional kick lately. I've definitely been more so looking into books that are more professional development and spiritual guidance as of late. So I definitely ordered some books on Amazon and thrift books that I will be reading this month, but that I don't currently have. But I will get into what I do currently have that I know I'm probably going to get to reading. Right now, God. Okay. Right now I'm currently reading The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This is one of the books that I hauled in my April book hauls. And so far I'm only 3 pages in, and let me tell you, he's already laying shit bare. So I'm just like, this book is less than 100 pages, so I'm pretty sure I'll get through this quickly. But so far I am really intrigued, and I'm really loving the tone, the voice, and where he's going with his prose. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this month. To Mental Health Awareness Month, I picked up some books that I felt were in and around those topics of discussion. It's kind of a funny story by Ned Vicini. This follows a character who is dealing with depression. Ned Vicini himself did also suffer from depression and I think PTSD, and he did end up actually committing suicide. So I'm actually really interested to see from this perspective. You know, as a counselor, you know, sometimes you can only get but so much of a story of a person's background, and so I'm really intrigued to see what sort of a story he lays bare in this book. I also want to read The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, I have seen the movie, so I know that this sort of deals with the main character having depression and then also dealing with, I think, the suicide of one of his best friends. So I'm really interested to see how this story comes across in book form. And this is another book that I've heard nothing but good things about, and I love the movie, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to run through this book as fast as I'll get out. It's not very long, and like I said, I already love the story. What I'm looking to pick up this month is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Now, some of you may say, okay, how is this related to mental health? Trauma is one of the main things that triggers, you know, a mental health breakdown or, you know, diagnosis of some sort. Mental health or mental illness most times starts off or begins with a trauma, and her witnessing the death and shooting of her best friend is definitely a traumatic experience within Black communities today. And you know, with social media the way it is and society the way it is, we sort of desensitize ourselves to trauma and to the actual, you know, side effects of seeing and viewing and experiencing these things, whether firsthand or secondhand. And I really think that hearing this story and this narrative will also bring to light some of the things that are currently going on with our youth in our communities today that we're not acknowledging. I'll probably do a video, just giving my thoughts about mental health and mental health awareness, but this is a book I definitely want to pick up, which deals with trauma and the implications that come thereof. Like I said, I'm into a sort of like spiritual growth and professional development kick right now. So two other books that I'm looking at reading are The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz and The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. I've actually already read The Four Agreements, and I read this last year, and it really got me through some tough times. So I'm actually looking to reread this month. And I've only gotten through a few pages of this book. I started reading it, and then for whatever reason I put it down. But I'm really interested in getting back into it because it definitely had some good messages so far. And then a poetry collection I'm looking at reading this month is Neon Soul by Alexandra L. Another one of the poets that I hauled a lot of her works from this month or last month. So I'm really excited to get into this as well. That is all that I have right now. Like I said, I know it was probably a lot, but I'm just all over the place right now as far as my reading, but this is sort of where I'm at. So if you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to hit me up in the comment sections down below. Like, subscribe, do your thing. And yeah, if you guys want to see me do a more in-depth of any one of these books, please do let me know down below, and I'll be more than happy to do so. Peace, love, and happy reading, y'all. You guys take care and enjoy the rest of your day.